Welcome, everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the Black Madonna. And I think this is a very special episode for this infamous campaign of Kult Divinity Lost because today we're gonna dissect my first run from it. Um, my name is David. Martin is my colleague here that you all know by now, hopefully, and we are enthusiasts of this game, and we're excited to bring this up to speed. We're both running this campaign. Me now for the second time, and Martin has been continuing his first run, and excited to see how this goes. There will be spoilers. There will be things that we will reveal, especially today. It's probably the most spoilerful episode. So if you're a player and you do not want to ruin the fun that is ahead of you, we recommend to stop now and send it to your GM and say, listen to those idiots and see what they have to say. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. And Martin.
Yes, our goal with this series is to support GMs and I guess players who want to run and play the Black Madonna in Kult Divinity Lost. System that's far more narrative driven than the original, perhaps more guns blazing 1990s version. And we will talk about how to adapt the campaign, what challenges to expect, and how to bring horror history and metaphysics to life for your table.
And, well, as I know that two of my players will be attending today, I want to send out content warnings. Black Madonna is a very dark campaign. We will touch various topics of trauma, harm to children, war, abuse, death, religious imagery, gore, body horror. Everything that a classic cult campaign entails, and we might go into some descriptive elements due to the purpose of recreation of the campaign. If you feel uncomfortable, use what is it called? Use discretion as advised, and make sure that you are fine with listening to all of this. Otherwise, skip.
And we also want to make clear this podcast is a fan project here. So we are not officially affiliated with Helmgast or the original authors of Kult. We are simply sharing our experiences and interpretations and advice for running the Black Madonna in Kult Divinity Lost.
Fantastic.
So
here we are. Before maybe I leave the episode to Martin, I do want to say thank you for all those people who give us feedback, comments in various servers and online platforms, and who said that they're actually starting to run this campaign thanks to our videos and our narration. Thank you. This is very enjoyable to hear, and we hope we could help and contribute to your understanding of this campaign. If you have any questions, if you have more support, or you want us to discuss anything further in detail, please let us know. And I hope this episode about how my players felt will give you a bit more insight even to that. And with that, I'll give it to Martin for the rest of tonight.
Well, I'm sure we will make you talk quite a lot as well, especially when we get to the questions to the GM. But let us begin with some introductions, I guess. We would like to introduce our guests and also the characters that you played. So let's begin with Crystal, perhaps. Please take it away.
Hello, I'm Crystal. I'm also a part of the Illusion Horror and Con admin team, and I played in David's Black Madonna campaign. My character was named Elvira Wolf. She was 42, and she was a bit of a spooky gal. She had a rare bookstore, which is how, I guess we'll get into this at some point, but that's how she met Magda. And yeah, she's single, no kids, and she enjoyed going out to discotheques a lot.
Excellent. Thank you. And great fun, and a little bit surreal for me to say to welcome to you, because of course, as everyone who follows the YouTube channel knows, Crystal is running, producing, and interviewing a lot here. But today, I guess you are in the guest seat.
Yes.
And let's turn to our other player and guest. Who are you, and who did you play?
Hello. I'm Tim, and I played Nils Knoll. Nils was around, I think, 25 years old is what I initially said. Although sometimes I played him like he might even be a tad younger than that. The initial description I wrote for him evolved over time, because I wrote him as being, tall, strong, muscular, but with big, thick glasses and a little bit dorky and uncomfortable with people. And over time, I probably emphasized that part of it more, but he wasn't artist, was his archetype, and he was a writer, a children's writer. He lived with his father, Volker, in a small home, and that was where we started. I guess I don't get into the dark secret stuff yet. We're going to talk about that in a little while. So I'll say that Nils was a struggling artist, hadn't done particularly well. His connection to Magda was that she had taken an interest in him and that she was trying to help him with his career, basically. It was just someone he knew. Nils was, in practice, as I played him, very, very innocent in the way he interacted with people, very childlike, very desperate to make friends, and very clingy and attached to the people he spent time with. And had some personal problems that became more clear over time.
Mm-hmm.
As I guess, as is often the case, is Kult Divinity Lost. Yes.
And the last character who can be with us tonight was Louise, who, based on her answers to our question that we sent beforehand, was the most generic appearance ever. She didn't stand out whatsoever. No. She had blue eyes, was blonde, had no tattoos or scars of any one meaning. So in a German society in the 90s, she was technically invisible. She was a former Stasi officer, and she was quite cold, pragmatic, analytical, and she kind of got dragged into this as a cashier in the beginning. And initially, she knew Magda only as a helping hand when she was a young teenager, and gave her some shelter while she was followed by some, illicit men. She found shelter in Magda's bookstore.
Excellent. That was what's your cast of characters. I think let's keep the dark secrets to our chests just a little longer, and sort of out of character. So, what was your relationship to Kult and to the Black Madonna before playing the campaign?
I can start. So I had played and GM'd a lot of Kult. I have read, at the time they hadn't put out the Kickstarter, the most recent Dark Realms and Other Stories Kickstarter yet. So I had read all the other English books cover to cover. So I knew a lot of the lore and a lot of things about Kult. So, love Kult. The Black Madonna actually was something that I hadn't read yet because I obviously wanted to play it. And all I really knew about it was that it was a pretty typical Kult setting, and I knew it was written by Mika and Gunilla, and it was 19 Berlin. Yeah, other than that, I didn't really know anything more.
I knew very little about. I feel like I still don't know Cult that well. I think by the time I finished playing Black Madonna, I had a pretty good understanding of the mechanics. But before we played it, I played a couple of scenarios. I knew nothing about the greater universe of Cult, other than there's an inferno and things come from there. Very basic stuff. And I did that on. I always tried to avoid reading more about it because I found it creepier and more fun to learn about it through the scenarios. Uh, all I knew about Black Madonna is that supposedly it was like the Cult campaign, the big scary campaign that people whisper about and not that many people have played. And I think this initial playthrough kind of started because I begged Crystal to run it, and then she's like, "Well, no, I'm not going to run it." But David's thinking about running it, and then we texted him, I think, immediately and told him he had to run it for us. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's more
basically
or less
told
what
him
brought
that
all
he
this
needs to
together.
run it for us.
Yeah, and he was very obliging, and I appreciated it. All the hard work of running this gigantic old campaign.
And like a fool, you accepted. That's good. So that means you had a pretty nice mix of knowing a metric ton of Cult and not really knowing the lore so much, right? That's
I do think, yeah, that our other player too, I think uh, she played Cult a lot. I don't know. I don't think she ever ran it before, but I'm pretty sure
Yeah, I don't think she was
played
an
a couple
expert on
of
the lore or anything.
She played a couple of one-shots and
okay.
mainly focused on
Yeah.
kind of a player perspective, but didn't really kind
Gotcha.
of fully
I think
dive
she was
in.
like me, where she had played it somewhat.
She prefers not to. She prefers not to know the lore to make it creepier, I guess.
there are two kinds of players: those who spoiler ourselves on all the materials, and those of us who have some sense. I guess I fall in the first camp myself. Yes, but that is some about the experience level and sort of your expectations, I guess. Let's begin at the beginning at character creation. So, how did you find the character creation procedure for the Black Madonna?
Maybe I'll just jump
You can go ahead.
in. So yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Creating a character is always weird because you don't know that much about the universe. I remember the narrative parts of it being a lot more fun. When it came to statting, I don't really know what's going to be important, and my vision of the character evolved a lot. So I think I was still tinkering in session 1 for sure, but I did find the narrative questions really fun, and the process of trying to create a character that was creepy enough for Cult and dark enough for Cult. I thought that was really cool. So I remember that being really, really enjoyable, and especially trying to challenge myself to make it really deep and complex and have all these ways that the GM could hurt me or make creepy stuff happen. So that was great.
I might want to interject here that I did send a additional questionnaire to my players to kind of elaborate and help them guiding with the background. In addition to the full player background that is given by the campaign. So I provided all of that in a separate channel on the server, and kind of they had always access to it. But I specifically added a few questions that I found would be helpful for me in the long run to kind of interpret and use during a campaign of that length. Just full disclosure to that point.
It was very thorough, and there was lots of creepy, cool questions and stuff. And it was, that was very cool. I enjoyed that. I felt like I really fleshed out a bizarre character by the time I'd done those questions.
A second interjection, sorry. But you said the first thing you sent me was a picture of a prisoner from the 1950s or something. And you asked, can I play this guy?
Bring that up.
Like, this was like, this is kind of perfect.
To contextualize, I had played with David before, and I knew this table, and I knew that it would be a place. It would be a good opportunity to develop a character that maybe was a little bit darker than I normally would feel comfortable going with a table, because I knew everyone at the table. I'd played with them many times before, And so I tried to pitch a character to David that I wouldn't be able to play in any other campaign. Probably not even in a lot of Kult games. And part of it was that the picture I sent for my character was a man in the USA who was on death row for doing terrible crimes. And when you look at his face and his eyes, there's some darkness there. And so I liked the idea of that being the first image you see of Nils, but also a coldness, a kind of a lack of emotion. And that's what I really liked about conceptualizing Nils. That for all of his problems and his neediness, there's this horrible lack of empathy at the heart of it.
Mm.
It's a creepy photo.
It is. I remember it now. Yeah, I tend to very much enjoy questionnaires when it comes to character creation. And that's not just for Kult, but pretty much any game I play. I think the stats are kind of boring, to be honest. I would prefer to create a character based upon narrative questions. And yeah, I found the questions, I don't know which questions were David's and which ones were actually in the book, but I, like Tim, I also very much enjoyed writing up a really detailed and complex character. And even if I didn't, like, there was quite a bit that I wrote that I didn't actually keep, or it changed or it evolved over the campaign. But still, it definitely gave me a really rich picture of who I was playing. And then Kult is always fun because you can always play to find out. So I love Kult to play to find out who my character is especially when we're thrown into a bunch of situations that we'll talk about soon, I'm sure. Yeah.
So it was. So we had a little bit of, quite a lot, I guess, of individual preparation and sort of like, I guess, writing back and forth with David. Then, did you do? How much did you do, sort of collaboratively as a group, and sort of interactively in character creation?
Nils only came to life the moment he met the other characters. That's when I first understood him, because playing off of the two of you, just beautiful. And I think that defined Nils to me better than all the preparation before that, because we had a dynamic almost immediately. Mostly, of their discomfort with Nils, but then Nils it just worked perfectly, because he wanted to be your best friend and you didn't really want anything to do with him, and that was very fun. But nothing structured, I don't think. I don't think we had any particular session or particular. No. I think we really just started session one. You meet, run with it. But I think we were comfortable enough with each other. We kind of turned that into a way to a collaborative kind of defining of the character moment.
Yeah, I think that's important to note, is that the three of us, or the four of us rather, with David as well, we've all played with each other a lot in other games, and we know each other, so it was very easy for us to just like drop in and play off each other's characters and actually vibe from session one, right? Which doesn't really happen if you're just kind of like new to people. I would suggest a session 0 if you're not too familiar with the people that you're playing with this game. But if you're very familiar with the other people and you play with them a lot, then yeah, I say drop in, right? I think that's the best way to go.
Totally.
And
I agree.
From Louise's perspective, she also thought that the structure helped her, or the question at the beginning, that I'm happy to provide to the description of the episode, to help her kind of flush out the character a bit more in detail. They're not that differently. They're kind of just a bit more precise in like how you how did you grow up? What is your relationship to your family? Did you have any siblings? How is your relationship to your parents? I wanted to focus on that family picture that the characters would have. And if it is distorted, why is that? And I think even just suggesting the aspect, because we discussed one thing was clear, even though we know each other, that it's going to be a significant point of disturbing imagery and harm to children, and these topics will be raised. And so they already, I think, anticipated kind of characters who would have experienced the harm in one way or another, to phrase it as broadly as I can in this constellation. And I think it definitely helped them kind of anchor their kind of world building or character building to that. And I also want to say that in our first session together, I gave each character about 15 to 30 minutes of narrative introduction. I asked them where they wake up on that day, what their apartment looks like, what they feel like, how they feel in Germany during that time. So like the other characters would understand a bit of insight into their character's perspective and get to know them on a private level that obviously the player characters wouldn't know, but the players would know in order to facilitate later on interactions, because we know each other, we know we can create a good story. And I think this is what benefited me, having such beautiful players at the table. But I think it's also something that shouldn't be disregarded. I think, Martin, we talked about this several times, about the player knowledge and character knowledge. It's not wrong, but it helps sometimes. And having to know these tidbits, I think you also mentioned that in earlier episodes, that the characters know a bit more about the individual people than the player characters do. And I think that definitely helped bring them all together. And obviously, because they're good role players, they try to make sure that they overlap at least once or twice a day in one way or another, so that I don't have to run 3 different campaigns for them for the rest of like what was a year and a half, I think, 42 episodes. Yeah.
I have my notes here, and the first notes I have is August 1st, 2024.
There you have it.
That would, at least, It was probably the longest campaign I played in, for sure. And I don't know if we came in average, slow. I don't even know if there could be an average for Black Madonna.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I think
it felt like we took our time, but I don't think it needed to be much shorter than that. I think there's so much to explore.
No.
That it felt
we did
right.
a lot of role play and had a lot of like interaction with each other, and just there was a lot of time of us just like having conversations / arguments about what's going on and what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The nature of the campaign lends itself to that too, though. It's not like go here to here, at least until very, very late in the campaign. For much of it, we felt like we were trying to follow the plot. It's just that the plot was very freeform in the way that we're mostly just trying not to get killed. And then we have to talk to each other to do that. Yeah. We're stuck together. So that was really fun, though. I liked that part of the campaign.
And for other GMs, as a reference, when Crystal says, sometimes we just talked, they literally had one session where they moved about 15 meters from a bathroom to a hallway to a staircase. And that was 4 hours of gameplay. And it was fantastic. I don't regret anything. It was just beautiful. Like, I don't remember talking that much. It was just sitting back, just prompting a couple of little nudges of things to instigate situations. And that was it.
I think there were many instances like that. I think there was one time we were driving where we talked for like an hour and a half just because we were driving long distance, and there was some drama in the car, and those were precious.
Always,
we liked that a lot. Drama. Yes. But it made sense to the campaign. I don't think we were ever not engaging with the plot. It's just that was the way that made the most sense. Yeah. Because there's a lot of doubt and you're not quite sure what you're doing.
And you at some point you're gonna have to like travel from Germany to like Moscow or Petersburg, whichever you do first. And however you do that, it's a long journey with a lot of time for ripping into each other. But on that note, I guess I'm a bit interested, like how your how the connection developed. Did your characters, feel connected as a group sort of from the beginning, or did you sort of develop this problematic relationship only over time?
Did you like Neil? Okay, at the very beginning, I think the relationship between Nils and Elvira and Louise was not as, I guess, conflict-ridden later, but I think at first you were mostly, you felt like he was harmless, creepy, probably right from the get-go. Maybe you have a better insight, but
I mean, so speaking from Elvira's point of view, she did not care about either of you. The relationship that she had to you two, which I believe was starting at the banquet, it was a relationship of necessity, first and foremost. Elvira just she kind of liked Louise in a way. But yeah, Niels was creepy, harmless at first, and then decidedly not harmless later. But yeah, it was, I think the relationship between the three of us was kind of fraught with drama and just being forced with each other instead of really like it's not like a D&D adventuring party where we like meet in a pub and we're like, oh, okay, let's go get the bad guy together.
We would not have gone to get the bad guy together in that scenario. We would have split up immediately.
Absolutely.
The joy of the campaign is that you're at a certain point early on, you're stuck together, which maybe for some parties would be played very differently. But for us, it was for me, maybe I should say, it was so fun because Elvira would not, under any other circumstances, have continued to hang around Nils. From session 2, she would have been out of there. But because of the dynamic of the campaign, you're forced to be a family, basically. You're forced to be together all the time. And my character was overjoyed by that, and your character hated it. And that was our dynamic from the very beginning, which was a lot of fun. So we had a dynamic, I think, right almost off the bat, that we just kept evolving and playing with throughout the entire campaign.
Mm-hmm. And then Louise was like, I think Louise acted as our sort of parent person who was like, just like, can we just stop arguing? Like we're stuck together. We just need to do the thing, okay?
Parent or divorced child or child who wants mommy and daddy to stop fighting. There was so much. Yeah, it was a fun dynamic.
That might be more accurate, actually.
Wanted to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was easier, but as time went on, because you're getting more, your characters are unraveling, it became more and more difficult. Are we going to be able to keep the peace? And I loved that. Even though as players, we wouldn't rip up we wouldn't stop the campaign to kill each other. There was this fun sort of dynamic where it's like, I don't know, if these characters go for long enough, something's going to break sooner or later. And that was really fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
Right. Yes. So I think, unless there's anything else you feel we need to add about the sort of the beginnings and the sort of the opening, I would like to jump ahead a little bit to a point of drama. But David, from a GM's perspective, is there anything we need to add before we go to the ritual?
I think my greatest achievement was to give each of the players that moment of self-portrayal and have them depict their characters how they see them. And I specifically asked them, how would somebody else in the room see you? What would they kind of read from your face and stuff? And I think that helped significantly to to create the bondage between the characters once they then met at the gala. And the gala was pretty swift. I think we only had one session or one and a half. Like end of session one, we even had the gala happening. And I think that was
done
then
the gala by the end of session one.
Yeah, I think that was like a
It ended
very
with us
condensed,
leaving.
condensed kind of event that brought them together and ultimately set the fate of the characters.
Great. So let's go to what is like the first major turning point and major rug pull, I suppose, of the campaign, namely the ritual and the assault on Sasha Pogodin's mansion. So I would like to know from everyone now, sort of out of character, what did you think was going on here with the ritual and the plot and all that stuff, if you can remember, and in character, what did your character believe was happening?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, what would we have even thought? I guess we would have thought.
I mean, I thought as a player, I was like, it's really early for a ritual that will heal us, that will like fix everything. This has got to be something, like we're missing something. The players are or the player characters are missing something.
It might be a multi-marketing scheme.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah. So me as a player, I was like, there's something going on here. But I really like it because it is definitely like it is a turning point for sure. But yeah, if you want to go ahead, Tim, I'm trying to think of what Elvira.
I don't think I thought it took us a long time to get from session one to getting to the that fight, that's assault. That was a long. We kind of got lost or confused. We didn't know. I think we went there once before and rang the doorbell to ask who lived there, which was a great move. So we completely didn't know what the hell we were supposed to be doing. And David did his best.
I think I learned how to astral project and like dream walk, basically. I think my character thought it was astral projection. Yeah. And
not literally, but something.
Yeah. I should mention my archetype was a cultist, so it started out as a cultist. Yeah. I was creepy magic lady. But yeah, I did a little dream walking to scope out the place because I was basically taking the lead as like the spooky magic lady. Like, okay, well, obviously I know how to do this ritual.
Yeah, there was like 5 sessions of running around, breaking into apartments, trying to figure out what the hell was happening to us. Why are we dying? That was a freaky part. It was, and then finally we realized to go there. Mm-hmm. And I think when you did the astral projection, it became clear that someone else was out of character. Became clear that someone out of character was trying to get us to go there. But I still didn't figure it out because I thought that maybe there were multiple forces and they're just trying to work against Bogadin. So when the actual thing happened, it was still quite surprising. Not to mention the imagery in that entire sequence is freaking bizarre. Yeah. It's one of the most bizarre parts of the campaign.
Yeah.
In character, I think we were just trying to stay alive at that point. I don't even. Yeah. I'm actually, no, Niels was very optimistic. I think he was like, no, we're being guided by a higher force. We're going to conquer and take over. But I think everyone else was a little more suspicious.
I think Elvira was also a lot more positive early in the campaign. She was like, okay, well, this is a ritual. This is something I know. So let's do the ritual and it'll be fine. But then we were like doing the ritual and it was kind of easy. And I think that's where she started to say, well, this is a little too easy, and I don't know if I like this. And yeah. And I think that was the turning point for her downfall into nihilism, for lack of a better word.
And that was also the first
really
turning
lost
point
control.
of a diversion in the group, because Louise was the only one who, at the second circle, decided to not continue. She was like, you know
Right.
what? I'm just going to be a lookout from now on. She thought that potentially the ritual would help heal themselves, or at least destroy them to a certain degree. But she also, I think her character was mostly kind of entangled with the idea that she didn't want to be involved with the occult activities. She didn't want to have any knowledge about this, and she didn't want to kind of follow that group dynamic of random people that she got allocated to. And as a former Stasi officer, she tried to inquire as much as she could about those people. And well, she did find criminal records for some of them, and which made her already kind of, well, cautious. And then this whole idea of breaking in somewhere, infiltrating, performing like a blood ritual of an occult, that this is like, if something is not GDR statute, then performing occult rituals on German soil is probably on the higher levels of what you do not do in Germany at that time. And even for her upbringing, I think that was, I think, also very surprising for me, because I was under the assumption that, you know, all of them would continue. And then she just suddenly said, like, you know what, I'm not going to continue. I'm just going to look out for the guards. You go ahead. I make sure that we are unseen. Okay.
Good choice.
You played her character a lot smarter than ours.
Yeah.
So, and then comes, like you said, Tim, some of the richest and most gruesome images in the campaign, I guess, at the conclusion of the ritual, and we meet the three heroes of the campaign, the Nepharites, and things go sideways and pear-shaped and very bad in like every conceivable way, and the player characters come out still not cured and even worse off with another curse on them, basically. So how did your perception sort of change in the aftermath? Right. What did you feel was going on here, and how did you feel about it?
Did we understand at all what was going on at that point? I mean,
No.
oh God.
I think so at the ritual, at the party, I think Elvira broke already.
Yeah. You started killing, I think, because there was weird acts of gratuitous.
You killed
everything.
The lead editor of the German newspaper.
Yeah. I killed somebody. And so after that, I mean, so Elvira was just kind of a normal-ish person. She owned a business. She liked to go out. Like this, basically after that, it kind of switched her mind with like, oh, the occult is just kind of weird and fun, to holy shit, the occult can actually do terrible stuff, and terrible people are involved in it. And I think that's when I changed my archetype to Avenger. And then so my trajectory was very much like everything is terrible. The whole thing that I based my life on is done by very bad people and has done this very bad thing. And then in addition to that, the aftermath of like, we started to be followed by police, and we had to be on the run. My bookshop, which was like everything I knew and loved, was infiltrated by police, and like basically my entire life was ruined after that. So that the trajectory of my character went completely 180.
Yeah, Nils, it was an important development for Nils. His reaction to the party, it was, I think he was exposed to things at the party that maybe related to his dark secret a little bit or something. So that was a whole added layer of complexity. It definitely did. And it changed the trajectory of his character too. But I think from that moment, it wasn't entirely tragic for him, because from that moment he was able to leave his old life behind. It was gone. And Nils's old life was incredibly, well, in his view anyway, incredibly tragic and bad. And so I think he emerged from that party with a new sense of purpose. Despite the fact that objectively everything went terrible and it was really bad. And he didn't emerge stronger. But I think the sense of purpose he got, particularly from being with the other two characters and feeling like he had to protect them, get them out of there. They needed him. I think that's really what it came down to. He felt like they needed him, and that without him, they would die. That changed his arc and actually made him, probably, at least for the short term, a happier person. But as far as what was happening at the party, or his understanding of it, it was... all we knew is we had to get the hell out of Germany. I think right from that moment, that was the big takeaway.
And how did Louise? How was Louise affected by the ritual and the aftermath?
Yeah, I think she had the realization not only that the occult is real and that her suspicion about that you shouldn't meddle with this stuff were substantiated, but that they actually had bigger problems, because suddenly they thought they defeated 3 entities, and now 3 more entities arose. And they just walked off into a wall and disappeared. And she was left in a bloodbath massacre ritual room. And she didn't know what to do. And as she put it, she might have needed crazier solutions to fight them. There should have been, and I think that's the beauty of that part, because the moment the realization happens for them, I think all of you must have broken, or were very close to broken at the ritual, at the final part when the incarnates came up. And I think that was definitely a point in the campaign where, I think Crystal put it right, that seemed too easy. That seemed like it was so easy to kind of overrun everybody, go infiltrate. And then I kept on, I didn't apply the penalties for their kind of role for keep it together and so forth, but I let them accumulate and just describe their situations. And once everything was done, once the Nephrites, once the incarnates disappeared and they were left in this bloody, gory room with like a sack of skin and viscera, then it's just like bam, 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 bam. It hits you. And that's when Elvira just cranked her head and didn't like the people around here and decided that those people around here should not exist anymore. And she went a bit murder hobo at that point. Which was so fitting.
In a good way, though.
They had it coming.
In a good way. They had it coming.
It was a very rational response to that situation.
There was even a little bit of I would say humanity, because they let a few of the guards pretty much naked with just a coat run out and get away. And I think it was Louise, actually, who kind of tried to stop Elvira's wrath of killing everyone. Because she realized the people that she killed were the higher echelons, the higher, influential politicians, mayors, general attorneys, newspaper articles, all of those
I
people.
want to be clear. I only killed one person.
Yeah, and severely hurt somebody else.
Yeah, I was going to say, not for lack of trying.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that point was significant, especially like the moment either everybody was dead, left, fled, and disappeared, and it was just that moment before police sirens appear, the moment before there's any other noise but them. And that was, I think, a good tense moment where they all felt like, well, what now? What the fuck now? I hope. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Stole all their fur coats and ran to the car because we knew we were going to need a lot of money. I just remember that we did that. And that was smart.
Right.
Yeah, and then we spent the next
because you were covered in
out.
blood, and you realized that these expensive fur coats look better on you in your delusion.
Yes, and we could sell them later for hideout money.
Which you did.
Yeah.
Which you did in Poland.
We did. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm. And I think we've already touched on it here, and we're getting into like the character progression. So I think it is time to talk dark secrets. Absolutely. Because I mean, after this point, the characters have to answer the question, what the fuck do we do now? And things open up a little bit. But I mean, already, I guess you will have revealed some things. So let me just ask simply, how did your dark secrets and disadvantages sort of manifest during the campaign?
I guess we can go back and forth or whatever, but I think
you can start.
Niels had a very bad dark secret, and the other players realizing it had a big impact on the progression of the campaign in some ways, I guess. I'm trying to think of when you guys actually you never really fully, it was one fun thing about it, you did not fully realize the extent of it until probably halfway through the campaign. Is that fair to say, you think?
Yeah, and Louise knew about it.
She found the police report. Yeah, but even the police report, I think that was a few sessions in. I don't think it was before the ritual. Or maybe it was. But
no, not before the ritual.
Yeah, it was after
that. Not before the ritual. Mm-hmm.
Which was fun. So I think you guys realized there was something a little bit wrong with Niels. Also from some of the stuff on my own as players. So I think the first thing they realized a couple sessions is that Niels had some... They realized that Niels had some sort of issue with young people or young boys in general. He would pay too much attention to them. I think there was some evidence of that. 10 to 14 kind of thing. And then I'm trying to think the moment you actually realized that there was something darker there. And there were multiple moments, but do you remember what the first time would have been?
Well... Again, Louise knew before. And I think she put it together from the police report and the first child you murdered, I think, when we were all together.
That moment was, yes. Okay, and that was so dark. I asked permission to play this character, but I think... Okay, to contextualize it, when I was creating the character, I decided I wanted to create a serial killer, someone who had some. My conception of it was a serial killer relatively early on in that process. Although over time it sort of evolved that he was a little further along. But I wanted it to be a serial killer who could interact with the other party members in a way that they would never be afraid that he would kill them or that he would harm them. And since I knew I had two PCs that were both playing women, female characters, I decided I would make a male serial killer, but I would have him be fixated on children or on young boys so that they would never be afraid that this person would harm them, but it would place them in this horrible dilemma of why would I want to associate with the worst person imaginable. And so that was the dark secret, that ultimately Nils had been responsible for the death of several children, but he was also sick, and it's not something he did maliciously, at least not to start in his mind. And I think they realized after the ritual, a couple sessions after that, I think one of you saw him outside of a playground or something, and then ultimately Nils ended up alone with a young boy.
That was Louise.
1930s-ish, not long after. Yeah, Louise, yeah. And she realized that. I remember that moment very definitively. And then he ended up going off into the woods with this young man, and then after that, there were police reports. And I think Louise put it together very quickly because she was a former Stasi agent. And I think Elvira might have been blissfully ignorant for a few sessions later until Louise took her aside and said, by the way, you should probably be aware that I looked up the police report of Nils.
Yeah, it was definitely Louise that told me.
And I think I also want to mention that moment happened while they were visiting Niels's father, the source of all evil in a sense. So while he visited his traumatic home,
we were not visiting him. We had to run away and hide out.
Hiding out, yes.
Somewhere.
And there were some warning signs at the house. It was a little strange. Nils also acted in a very childlike way, so there were things about him that signaled that maybe there's something a little bit off here, a little bit wrong.
Couple too many shelves with bleach and cleaning solutions, and his father was a former surgeon, and a lot of phrases in the area. The general aspect was kind of creepy, especially for Louise as a former Stasi agent. She understood the warning signs, and I think there was. I gave them that moment of relief of like taking a shower and just feeling a bit human again. And the father went out or something, and they kind of snooped around, or like while Niels took a shower and had creepy visions and disturbing nightmares. But the other two kind of realized something here is wrong, something is messed up. But I think that it was also the point for Louise, and maybe even for you, Elvira, that you realize Niels might be a victim of his upbringing, because each of you has been damaged as well. And it was, I think, a weird, good opportunity to kind of bring in that kind of weird moment. And then, the next day, the news on the TV kind of flick it up. Young boy found in the woods and stuff. And it was a fantastic revelation, I think, of your dark secret, which was not a revelation, but it was just there. It just happened, right?
Yeah. And I think at first they thought maybe Volker is the one responsible, my father. Then very quickly it became clear that no. What I enjoyed the most about it too is they couldn't confront Nils about it. I don't think at that time. I think they had to kind of. And Nils was very naive, so it was very easy to keep secrets from him. So they had to go on pretending we don't know about this, which made it creepy on so many levels, which I enjoyed. And Nils was very affectionate, very friendly, always wanted to be around them, always wanted to hang out, really wanted to believe that they liked him. And they had to kind of go through that ruse for a while, kind of having to bite back bile every time they talked to him. So I think that was when that dynamic became, especially for Elvira maybe, became very dominant. Yeah.
A pivotal moment in I think in Elvira and Niels's relationship is when you gave her that butterfly necklace.
Yes. That was later.
That was later.
At a certain point, he realized you knew his dark secret. And then I think it became complicated because he wanted you to think he was good. So he really wanted you guys to think that, no, I don't really do this, or this isn't really me, or it's an illness, something like that. He was trying to justify it. And then he started picking up that Elvira didn't really like him. And then he gave you a necklace of a butterfly. And to contextualize Nils's sickness, the children he killed, he called them his schmetterlings, his little butterflies. And he had fantasies that each one he killed was a butterfly that he would see in his dreams. And he had this belief that after he died or he left this world, he'd be able to spend time with all of his butterflies. And they'd all be together in a better world where we could all love each other and not be limited by the darkness of this world that prevented anyone from really loving him being able to have a relationship with anyone. And so by killing the children, he thought he was taking them to this other world. As he got angry at Elvira for not understanding it, but also felt very protective of Elvira and wanted her to like him, he got you a necklace with a butterfly on it. And that was a very interesting moment in the campaign. And from that moment on, I think you hated Nils even more. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Elvira's dark secret is not as fraught, I think. But and also I don't think the other two knew a whole lot about her dark secret for a long time.
Louise knew early on some of it.
Oh, because she read the police report, right? Yeah. Okay. Elvira's dark secret is that she Elvira was not her real name. Her real name was Anna Schmidt, and she grew up in basically in a rural town in Eastern Germany, post World War II Eastern Germany, and she met an American sort of occultist man who was traveling through, and he taught her the things that she knew about occultism. And she used her knowledge. So she had a sister and a mother and a father, and she used little tricks and incantations to make her sister uglier. And then there was also one time she accidentally injured her father really badly, to the point where he couldn't work on the farm anymore. And then she just kind of left and wanted to go to university. She wanted to go to the cities. So she ended up, basically paralyzing her father with an incantation, and then was left the farm and ended up going to university and bought a bookstore, changed her name, changed everything about her.
And unbeknownst to her, there were just like little nudges in character creation that I was like, should he be American? Could he be like this age? Could he be this appearance? And later on, it was oh god,
Harcombe.
Nigel Harcombe,
our favorite.
Nigel Harcombe.
Yes, Nigel Harcombe. And the revelation took, I think, 30-something sessions until she realized the person in Moscow at the Slava headquarters dissecting and helping a Russian doctor.
Mr. Leatherpants himself.
Yeah.
Nigel
was the man
Harcombe.
that taught her occultism all along. And
That was the greatest
I have to
NPC detail of the whole campaign, easily. That he was wearing tight leather pants. Because the moment I heard that, I knew he was trouble.
Yeah.
We knew exactly who he was when we knew he was wearing leather
This guy's an occult master if he's wearing tight leather pants in a Russian base.
And I have to say, this was actually one of the most difficult things for me, because I really wanted to bring that aspect in earlier, but I knew where it happened. But like having that established that connection in the character creation, that she got taught by Nigel, and I knew it was gonna take a year and a half until she understood who that man is. It was crushing me as a GM, because I did want to tell her and I wanted to showcase, but it was worth it. It was fantastic kind of revelation. And I think go ahead.
I think it also worked well with who Elvira was in general, because Elvira definitely played her cards close to her chest. Like, she was not open with the other two about her life, or not really much about her. They knew her in this really fraught, terrible moment in her life, and that was kind of it. And then all she would really do was harp on the fact that her life is ruined. Like, she doesn't have her bookshop anymore. Like, the life that she wanted, that she built for herself, is now completely gone.
Yep. And for Louise too, if I might kind of stretch the ball here a bit, she had this kind of nightmare or dark secret of flashbacks, which was pretty much taken from the suggested dark secrets from the command book. It was about people, places you not know, glimpses of frozen cities and terrible hunger. So every time she either drank too much, took drugs, exhausted, and instead of kind of like that see through the illusion, I kind of just gave her glimpses. She opens a window, but it's frosted, or these little kind of details. And the main reason was that she was responsible for her husband's arrest, who was a dissident and tried to flee East Germany. And she reported him to the authorities. He got caught, he got imprisoned, he got tortured. At some point, he most likely died. She doesn't really know what happened to him, but she knows for sure she's responsible for his demise. And one of the things that I, as a GM, want to say here is the main theme about all the Dark Secret is about family, relationship, connections, and it has that constant theme of you're close to someone, you're losing someone, and I think even if they didn't recognize this, it was hopefully a guiding theme throughout the narrative. Everywhere we went, there was this aspect of loss, aspect of regret and desperation in certain degrees that the characters went through. So not everyone experienced Leningrad the way that the others did. Some felt relief that it is an empty, desolated space. Others felt alone, isolated, and remembering their past. And I think that aspect of Dark Secrets, if it's possible to tie that in to the umbrella term of family, I think generally helps for the campaign. Because I think even if I didn't know it then, I only realized it at the end when Martin and I started this fantastic discussion, that I actually did something preemptively that I could count back to and create a situation with meaningful events at the end that all give you some sort of options or reflectance. So each of you had a choice at some point to do a decision that benefits you or the group. If you remember or if you don't, but each of you did. Mm-hmm. And I think that was, for me, the most difficult part to establish as a GM, especially with the intrinsic amount of detail that each of them provided for their characters, which was insurmountable. But it was very fun. It was very fun, and I don't regret it. But I also want to reiterate at that point, ask your players how they feel. What do they think? How do they react to certain elements that other characters do? Because 95% of this campaign that we played was based on me asking after somebody did something, how do the other two feel about this? How do you react? What do you do? How does the one acting appear to the others? And that gave me the guidance to kind of even run this for that long. That's me. And I think Con too.
Mm-hmm.
I think a little bit on that note, if we don't need to put percentages on it, but if we think about the sort of the character-driven parts and the plot-driven parts, because I mean, the Black Madonna has a lot of pre-written plot as well, or pre-written elements. Sort of, how did you feel about the balance there? How much of it do you think came out of your characters, and how much do you think came out of like the machinations of the Black Madonna?
I feel like a lot came out of our characters.
Agree. It was reacting to the machinations of the plot, but then a lot of the campaign was just hiding out in a room together, figuring out where we're going to get new clothes, passports, where we're going to go, and then once in a while going somewhere dangerous and engaging with the plot. But we were pretty methodical, so I think more on the character with occasional really tense moments.
Are you referring to Russian missile bases?
Well, that was machinations of the plot. Okay, so no, I think the last portion of the campaign was much more machinations of the plot, which was necessary.
That's true.
But perhaps not the best written part of the campaign. I mean, depends how you look at it, but but it's still fun. Early on, more on the side of the characters generating the drama, but because of we're hiding, so that's a plot machination too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if we had not been as willing or as excited to role play and interact with each other and be in the moments of hiding out in a room or in a car driving somewhere, fleeing, if we weren't willing to be in those moments, then the campaign would have been a lot shorter.
Definitely.
And so I think definitely the first 3/4 of the campaign was very character driven, very, very character driven. And then the last quarter still character driven, but I think it was much more equal with machinations of the plot of the Black Madonna, because it needed to be. Like, that's where we're engaging with all the the end of the final boss stuff, right?
I think for Louise as well, that was a similar take, equal crafting of the characters, and then blending over time the setting with everything else to kind of come to a conclusion to that end.
I'll just throw into, I think we were very careful and when played it maybe a little more realistically than some parties might, where we wouldn't just go to a dangerous location and start investigating or asking questions. We would stake out, watch things. I think generally we were a bit careful in the way we engaged with things, or think about how we wanted to approach it. Whereas some parties, I'm sure, would just go to the evil place and engage with it a little bit more upfront.
And I think to that point too, besides Louise, we were regular people, and at least I was playing
to start.
Yeah, to start. We were regular people. But that's how I was playing Elvira, more or less, was as a regular person. And a regular person isn't just going to go and I don't want to just go to this person's house and break into it or, whatever. I think we were trying to play it a little bit more realistic. And I mean, I guess Louise too. Louise was also the same, but she had we leaned on her a lot because of her former Stasi. We knew she was a spy of some kind pretty early, so we leaned on her a lot for that.
Once we realized there was men with guns everywhere after us and stuff, we were super careful because we did not have a lot to answer that with. But it was fun though. It was fun to hide out and be careful.
Yeah. Maybe other groups it wouldn't have been as fun, but I think because our group was so invested in the role play, then I think it made it more fun for us.
One thing, it was so difficult and you're facing so many things that are so beyond you, but when we would occasionally get a win, it was so much more satisfying because of that. There was a guy in a toilet who had an upset stomach, who had a gun at one point. We defeated him because he was like a enforcer bodyguard, way better than us. But David did this fun little thing where he got left behind because he has diarrhea or something, and he's in the place we're checking out. And we managed to get one up on him. And it's such a stupid little thing that shouldn't feel, but it felt so satisfying to have beaten someone else. We got the jump on one enemy, and I just remember being so happy after that session that we defeated one of our many, many foes, because that guy didn't walk away from that. It was a fun moment.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit, I think, or more than a little bit, perhaps, about character development over time. So I think even for like seasoned horror role players, the Black Madonna is probably can be the longest time you spend inhabiting a particular character, at least for a long time. And you've already touched on it a little bit, but how did your characters evolve over time?
May I
It
just
became
quote,
so powerful.
May I just quote Louise? The biggest change was the fact that she had to accept help and rely on others. She was rescued from certain death at least twice from the other two characters.
Yeah.
See, Kult Divinity Lost, a game about relying on other people and being vulnerable.
creepy.
And she
people.
hated the fact that she had to be rescued by Niels.
And he loved it. It was been way worse, right?
Yeah, she almost like, you could have just let me bleed out before I need to give you a favor.
She would have vastly preferred it. I picked her up like a baby once and cradled her for when she was going crazy and broke, and ran her out of that building. And humiliating for her. And because Nils, that's he wants other people to depend on him. It was endlessly creepy.
I think that was a big theme, especially later on in the campaign, is that Niels and Elvira ended up becoming enlightened during the campaign, and so Elvira started to become more and more powerful, as well as Niels. But there was always this back and forth of like, man, I should really do something about Niels, but he's so powerful now that we kind of need him for this thing. So I can't really do anything. And that was like a big push and pull between Elvira and Niels for the good second half of the campaign. And yeah, I think that was a big thing for Elvira, is that she evolved from like, she started off really powerful as like a regular person. She had a successful business. She really enjoyed and loved her life. And then she lost every single thing in her life and became just depressed, and everything was horrific. And then she became enlightened and started feeling powerful again. And her power was coming from something else. And she ended up reestablishing her love of the occult and becoming like a dream magician. And that's when she started to actually think of herself as somebody to be reckoned with.
Nils started off the campaign. I mean, literally session one, Nils was beaten up by a middle-aged parent of like a teenage boy who Nils had kind of had an awkward encounter with, where I think he touched him. So he's beaten up, thrown out of a restaurant on a ship, and also beaten up by his agent, I think. So the whole first session was Nils being humiliated by every figure in his life. So he started off as someone mired in self-loathing, with absolutely, he's an artist, but his work isn't getting sold. He has nothing in life, and I think he's extremely depressed. And then the campaign starts, and suddenly he's thrown into this mission, this task that to any normal person would be this horrible curse. And I mean, he is cursed, but it gives him a purpose. And then the moment he's traveling with the other two, he starts carrying out this kind of fantasy that we're a family and that we're together because we care about each other and that we're going to win and achieve things. So his arc was, at first it was that. It's that we have this found family and that I'm actually kind of glad that I have the curse because it gives me a purpose. And it gives me something to care about. It makes me feel loved or seen for the first time. Which is complicated because of how the party feels about Nils, but he lies to himself throughout much of the campaign. He's lying to himself, thinking the others like him until he doesn't, and that was a tension point later. But then when he becomes enlightened about halfway through the campaign, he starts to become more powerful and he becomes an abomination. And gradually the dynamic then is, maybe I don't need to be ashamed of these parts of myself I've hidden all this time. This child murdering that he doesn't rationally acknowledge. He's not someone who would ever admit to this. So this dark, horrible thing that he does, that he kind of represses, he starts to think that maybe I don't have to be ashamed of that, and maybe that's a source of what will make me, great. And that's sort of the dynamic he's wrestling with. And he starts falling more into that as he starts fearing or believing the other party members don't really like him, especially Elvira. Because Louise, he holds out hope. She's a little bit more accommodating, pretending to like him. Elvira stops. She there's too much bile. She can't handle it. I think she hates. It's not even what Nils does. It's his hypocrisy. The fact that he acts like we have to be best friends. And that becomes, it's a real point of tension in the second half of the campaign, to the point where for the last maybe quarter of the campaign, it's at the point where it's like they might kill each other. We don't know if this goes on for much longer. Nils is daring you to try to kill him. And with the dynamic you talked about, maybe we have to do something about it. Nils picks up on that. And then from that point on, every session, he's goading you a little bit. Yeah. Being like, do you think you could? He's scratching your door in the middle of the night at one point. He's the little messages. So it turns into this horrible passive aggressive thing where we're just goading each other back and forth. And that's the joy of that interrelationship, because we're almost like a brother and sister on one level, but and it's very dark. But that's, by the end of it, Nils is truly a monster. But in the final session is him coming to terms with that, where final couple sessions where he finally, I think only in the second to last session, he acknowledges that what he's done with children, and also that he's not ashamed of it anymore. And I think that second to last session is where he finally says, I know you don't like me. And that's the kind of the final arc for him. And then he can become the monster that he was always meant to be. So I guess it was sort of a happy ending, but in the most messed up way imaginable. For Nils, not for anyone else.
And I think for Louise, she chose to not become enlightened. She chose to remain aware. And I think given the statement of the other characters and their involvement and how she saw them progress, it was I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the matter of the fact was that I saw her as this like light post in this raging storm of chaos that erupted around her. And she didn't see the world beyond the understanding of everything. She got glimpses, of course, but she also didn't have Chigdigil's mark, but she didn't finish the ritual. She didn't, have a lot of the kind of connections to the occult, and she wanted to stay away from it. I think that was a significant part, that Louise was different enough for both of them, that they saw. I think both of you saw her as an anchor point of like maybe a pitch back to reality. Like if I can convince Louise to be on my side, I'm somewhat human. I still have somewhat a soul that is worth fighting for. And I also liked, so Tim's or Niels's transformation to the abomination began with a form of Baba Yaga offering him a small bone in a side alley in Moscow while it was showering bones around him. Nobody else saw this, but he walked down that alleyway. He saw this old woman kind of hunching in the back corner and she just gave him a piece of bone and then said something meaningful to him and then disappeared. And then you could see that gradual downfall or the transformation to Niels becoming the abomination. And then, as you mentioned, that the second to last episode, I had at the second missile base another short scene before they kind of, or after they after they came out. Actually, it was the epilogue, close to the epilogue, I think. When they left the missile base, explosions and everything, it was Doomsday, Armageddon, Terminator ending. But then she came back and he walked into the forest and he gave back the bone, and she asked if he commits to his true soul and if he would accept the form that he's in. And he did. And his transformation thus was complete. I've not really established what entity, what kind of background this old woman belongs to.
Do you accept Baba Yaga as your Lord and Savior?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just felt so natural for the theme, the situation and everything.
Yeah.
And that was what he saw. And he was an author. And that was the one thing that was like, what would an author see as a imagery of something powerful, an entity that he knows he cannot deny, but like he cannot really accept in the first place? But then there it is. It is Baba Yaga, of course. You're in Russia. You're in Moscow, in the deepest trenches of somewhat outside of Moscow. And yeah, it felt so rewarding for him to return the bone at the end and accepting a bargain and transform and commit to his new element, I guess.
It was perfect too because his books were about, he'd written a couple books that weren't super popular, although they were very popular with young adults actually in Germany, about being lost in a forest. Two young boys lost in a forest. I think the last one they were searching for a witch, so it fit in with that too.
Yep.
And so it kind of fit into his stories. And I think he asked her, like, will I be accepted? Or something like that. Like, will I be, I don't think he said the word loved there, but like, will I matter to you? Will I be important? Because he just wanted someone to give him acceptance. And Baba Yaga was the only taker at that point in the campaign, because he'd become such an awful being. But really, even at that point, that's what he wanted deep down, the human part of him. And he finally got that from Baba Yaga. I think that's when he had to let the other party members go, or that side of his emotions. And then that was why we almost killed each other, I think, later that session or the next session, although we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to ask now that I think you probably exhausted a lot of the advancement tracks on these character sheets. So how powerful were your characters by the end, and how did that feel?
Did you actually, what level were you at? You probably know that, right? I think I might have been one behind you.
Yeah, I
have my stats. Oh my god. We basically maxed out.
Yeah, I mean, I created a separate character sheet for my magician Elvira, just to keep track of everything separately. I was over level 20 at the end. Yeah, she was very, very powerful. And I mean, she started her dream magician track when they started doing dream magic for all the dream sequences that are in the middle of the campaign. And she was very good at them because she's very good at soul. And yeah, she was basically at the end of the campaign, she kind of abandoned her human form to become a wandering dream prince. And so that was the level of her power. She was able to walk into Niels's dream and steal his butterflies.
That was beautiful.
And
kept making more.
Yeah. I like to think that we ended up being in a very sort of like cyclical relationship of you just keep creating butterflies and Elvira keeps trying to um, take them away and set them free or whatever. Um, yeah, Elvira became very, very powerful, and I mean, basically, what happened in the second missile base, in the last missile base, she did a ritual so that they could basically get to the the final boss easier. And yeah, she killed another person.
It's like General
You killed a few.
Strelko, right, at that point?
It's Strelkov.
Yes.
That's, yeah.
And
Strelkov.
I do
Mhm.
I do want to elaborate here a bit, and I think we're going to talk in a few months about this. But the point was that after the Dream chapter is done, from the way the campaign is written, it felt a shame that you create this beefed up character of dream magic and the understanding of dream lore and anything that requires kind of dreaming. And then you infiltrate missile bases. And I felt that it's a bit unfair if a character would be staying behind at a KGB headquarters and just lay in a bed there and try to walk into a incarnate dream who doesn't sleep, which it states in another section, I think. And I was like, there's so many loose threads that I don't like. So what about if we allow this very powerful at this point dream magician to say, if you do something very horrific, you're able to open a rift, the borderlands between the dream and Elysium. It will cost you, but you can then dream walk, kind of misstep in and out of the dream world and the real world. And that was I think, a beautiful integration of her abilities that have been taught to her by a very important person. And that she relied upon, that she connected to. And it felt a shame that she wouldn't be able to use them in the later campaign. And I did want to ask, maybe at that point, interjecting, how did that feel? Was that feeling overpowered? Or did the sacrifice that you needed to do feel okay?
I mean, I thought it was. It didn't feel like it was overpowered at all because we were infiltrating a missile base. I don't know like how we were supposed to do that as just sort of regular people, right? Like if we hadn't evolved into enlightened characters, like even with, what was her name? The other lictor.
I kept calling her Tanya, but that wasn't her name.
Soya.
Soya. Yeah.
Zoya,
yeah.
Even with
She was
the
annoying anyway.
even with
Thank
Zoya and her and her group behind us to help, it was still just like an astronomical sounding thing to do. So I think it makes sense that given that the campaign is so long, like, yeah, your character should probably get to an enlightened state if you're going to be if you're going to run it by the book and you're going to do the 2 missile bases, then yeah, I think you should be doing it with enlightened characters, at least more powerful characters than how you begin it.
Yeah. Speaking of running it by the book, I guess, did you use the fan-made Dream Magician archetype, or did you sort of wing the Dream Magician?
I was winging it.
You were winging the Dream Magician.
Yeah,
Wow,
I was winging
awesome.
it. Yeah, I didn't even realize there was a fan-made Dream Magician, like setup for that. Yeah, just winging it, just kind of. I mean, it was basically me and David being like, okay, this is what I want to do with her dream magic. Is that okay? And he would say yay or nay, and then I would, yeah.
There's the one thing
do
that
it.
when you become enlightened, you have that guide, that echelon or whatever it is that kind of guides you into your perspective
The
realm
power
of
broker. Yeah.
power broker. Thank you. The power broker that is supposed to kind of help you, guide you. And I thought, okay, I gave her this kind of dream wanderer next to Piotr and everybody in the campaign, and I was giving her the option to learn from him if she engages with the character. She did. So I was like, okay, so whatever you kind of bring to me, what you want to do in dream state, because dream time is different to real time, as long as nobody attacks you during sleep and Shigdigil is not aware what you do, which I think in dreams I also portrayed in her safe place was her bookshop, and outside there was just Leningrad being bombarded all over the place. So she knew that when she steps out, she's in danger. But as long as she keeps inside, she can do pretty much whatever she wants. She can call everyone. That's her safe space. And
my sanctum.
Yeah,
I think it's called in the rules.
And the main thing was engaging with the power broker and asking questions what she wants to do, and hitting that compromise through the power broker with her in narrative game. I think that was the right balance. And the ritual to kind of cross the border or create these kind of rifts in space to walk between dream and reality, that was just something that, yeah, she was taught, but it required a sacrifice where she needed to kill an innocent. And for her, for Elvira, even in her enlightened stage, that was a point that, yeah, she felt. She knew that it's not going to be easy, because at that point, she didn't actually kill anyone consciously, not in a fugue state, not in a rage or in a broken condition. This is somebody who had actually done nothing wrong, and you were supposed to kill him.
And I was also incredibly righteous as a person when it came to Niels and his activities as well. Elvira was incredibly righteous and indignant towards Niels for killing people.
Murder.
And,
for murder, but yeah. And then
you
turned around and just did it. So I don't think he ever found out about that, but he would have found that very self-righteous if you were very hypocritical.
She made absolutely sure that he did not find out about it.
Yeah.
I think. No, go. Yes, please. I was just going to.
I'll just jump into that. Because Niels had a huge progression once became an abomination. And I found that as a player, an immense amount of fun. I don't know if it necessarily helped structure the campaign, because I wasn't trying to min-max or anything, but I realized if you become an abomination and take certain skills that are related to fighting, you become unspeakably powerful. And I had a lot of fun at that point. After being weak and running for so long from men with guns, realizing now that Nils can walk into a room of 10 men with, machine guns and probably dispense with them without too much difficulty. And there was a few moments in the campaign where that became clear. One of them, we were being chased by those assassins or whatever, and Nils ended up catching them and killing the guy, and that was amazing in Moscow. Because that was the moment where it felt like the tables had turned. Instead of us running from them, they were running from us. And that was very fun as a player. I certainly enjoyed that. And so I'll just say, I never had played an enlightened character before.
I think
Amazing.
the final blow to Blobel in Moscow was still Louise, who dealt the final blow to kill him.
Oh, maybe you're right. But still, I think he would have gone away if it wasn't for the giant abomination
If
chasing.
he wouldn't
grabbed
have
the car
destroyed
at
the
one point.
engine and smashed the car into the sidewalk. Yes.
He started ripping up the car they were getting away in, just physically, because Nils was so strong at that point.
Yeah.
And that was an immense amount of fun. I imagine it was challenging for David sometimes, because there's all these big combat sequences. And we didn't want to sit there and roll for an hour and a half. So at a certain point, it just became, at what point is it reasonable Nils would be able to wipe out this group of people? But I think without that, it would have been very hard to get through those sequences, though, of the multiple Russian missile bases. Because at a certain point, it was people getting behind Nils as he runs forward and just decimates group after group of soldiers. Which was, as a player, though, I did find it immensely entertaining. Just to have a character that powerful in Kult, where you're never really powerful, or usually, at least in my experience, you're always kind of weak and surrounded by things more dangerous than you. So that was immensely fun from like a mechanical viewpoint. Although I did also enjoy occasionally Nils realizing what a curse this is to, and how awful being an abomination is. Because both as a player, in and out of character, I didn't realize that at first. And then when the disadvantages started kicking in, I realized that the disconnection from his humanity. And at that point, it's too late. And so it was just fun, that conflicted element where, it's fun, I'm so immensely powerful, but now I'm not human anymore. And given the nature of his disadvantages, one of them being anytime he saw, it's dark, but anytime he saw a child, he would essentially have to attack them. And there was like one moment with Louise in particular that frightened her, where he just goes for this child and she grabs him and manages to push him off. But from that moment on, she's terrified of him. And so that was a cool moment. So I had a lot of fun with that progression.
I do want to say,
dark as it was,
I really appreciate it. And I'd like to hear that you understood the idea that I wanted to give you the freedom of, once you became that creature, that you could kill a room of 10 people easily. And you did, with vigor and excitement. But then I also like
several
that
times.
When the other two then saw you, you were like, oh, shit, fuck. No, it's fine. They were bad people. And you tried to explain away the fact why you killed these guards who just did their job. I think there was a lot of hand-wavy rules about not dealing with all the combat stuff, but it created so great narrative to the character of Niels, of understanding that duality of his new nature, that I really enjoyed.
And the more monstrous he became,
the
more
human you became.
Us. Well, no, the more it justified us not, but the more it justified to Elvira to not kill him, in a sense, because it's like, wow, he is incredibly powerful, and we're not going to do this without him. That fucking sucks. Like, she hated the fact that was the reality, and Louise. Basically, Louise and Elvira's dynamic from that point was basically, what do we do about the Niels situation? We can't really do anything about it right now because we need him, and he's incredibly powerful, and we're not going to get through this without him.
And he became a little more threatening toward Elvira around that point too.
Oh yeah,
I think there was that dynamic where it's like, you think you can kill me, and then he was less in control of his emotions.
She disregarded your butterfly necklace. She threw it away.
Yeah, she never wore the butterfly necklace.
Yeah,
I think which was deeply offended him.
Yeah,
and she stopped playing along with the family dynamic. But he was becoming less human, so he didn't care as much about that. But there was a bitterness there that he wanted. If you wouldn't love him, he wanted you to fear him. And so that was his motivation at that point, was to make you intimidated by him. It was a very dysfunctional, abusive relationship, the two of us.
Absolutely.
It got dark.
I'm glad to hear that you were sort of successful in playing Clive Barker, the role-playing game, with these characters, because it really does sound just like the genre fiction inspirations for Kult, which is what we're trying to achieve here, right?
Yeah.
So We have already said missile base like 6 or 7 times, right? So
Yeah.
now we have to talk about the tension here between like the sort of old school structure of the Black Madonna and a sort of more narrative character driven playstyle, which it seems like your table embraced. So there's a lot of combat heavy content in the Black Madonna, and my understanding is that you played through at least some of that. So how did that feel? You know, the air base and the missile base, in particular.
2 is too many. I think maximum of 1 missile base in any campaign. Especially when you get to the end of the missile base and find a note to another missile base. That might have been one of the dumbest moments in campaign history.
I do.
It was funny, but
I think we made it funny, but like me, Crystal, I was like, what the fuck is this campaign? Like,
it wasn't enough. I couldn't figure out a way to get it all in 1 missile base.
To quote Louise, I think the military bases combat broke me a bit. They were like combat Matryoshka dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I haven't read the Black Madonna since we've played it, so but I think the 2 parts that were not great in the campaign was, first of all, the starting of the banquet, bringing the characters together. I wasn't a big fan of that, even though like it successfully brought us together. But I think that was because, again, we leaned into it, and we were, experienced role players who were going to go with it no matter what. So that, and then the second missile base, specifically the moment when we found out there was a second missile base, I was like, okay, for real, like this is ridiculous. But playing through them was still a lot of fun. And
tense.
I think the combat specifically, because Kult is so sort of open-ended and do with it what you will, like that's a very common theme within the book. I think because of that, it was good to not have to go through each individual like fight and each individual interaction one by one, all these roles, all these things. I think the second missile base, like we did not more than 10 rolls, like between the 3 of us. So I think just running those
three
how
of
it makes
those
sense.
rolls were your ritual.
Right, exactly. Rolling for my ritual. Niels had a couple tantrums, which I think he had to do rolls for. So not even all of it was combat rolls. It was just, us experiencing what we were experiencing and then how that affects us. So again, if you have a table that is more interested in the nitty-gritty, doing the rolls for the combat, that's one thing. But I think because we had a table that wasn't really interested in that, it was better to just kind of hand wave a lot of the stuff away. And it made it a lot more fun to make it more of an internal like character evaluation of what is happening, like how we're affected by the stuff that's going on in the missile base.
And
I'll throw in like there were. Sorry.
Well, no, just from Louise's perspective, it also was that she found the last part of the campaign, especially the missile bases, quite exhausting. And even though she appreciated that in terms of combat, it was greatly reduced. But before that, it was a good mixture between kind of the narrative and the combat that we experienced throughout the campaign. But yeah, the missile bases, I mean, they were written in a sense of combat. I tried to reduce them as much, but that's where we are.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It gets a little. There were still tense moments and fun, but just the sheer ridiculousness of it and the odds you're facing, there's hundreds, thousands of soldiers. So there's just the three of you and maybe a few others. It gets a little bit silly. But I will say before that, especially, there were some great tense moments that had combat, not necessarily us, firing guns, but like we were constantly facing overwhelming odds. So anytime we investigated anything, the guy having diarrhea, like that, because we're just regular people, we know he's in there. He has a machine gun in there. We can hear him pooping. It's like, this is still tense. If we roll badly here, screw up, he can, he's gonna point that gun at us.
Yeah.
Pants down or not. One of my favorite sequences for Niels, just in terms of mechanics, is when he had to sneak into the Slavic Society, which it's not overwhelmingly defended. The Slavic Association, and get documents and sneak out. And he had to roll amazing to pull that off. And whatever we were facing, ultimately, I remember as a player feeling that was incredibly tense. Because at that point, he wasn't enlightened. We were very weak. So I liked the way that it often came down to the tension of the fear of combat. One time I went to one of the enemy bases where there were men with guns wandering around.
Herman's mechanical workshop.
Yes. Yeah. So how could that be dangerous? Ran into a guy with an automatic rifle instantly and had to pass a roll where I knock him over and run, basically. And it was tense. I believe David would have killed me there if I had failed that. And I liked that. I like combat when it's fast and deadly, and I think it often felt like that, where it's basically there's one or two rolls, and either you're dead or someone else is dead or you've run away. And those sequences were fun, although there weren't too many of them, which I think was perfect, but when it did happen, it was great.
Yeah.
But no more missile bases.
One, if any at all.
Yeah.
You'll be glad to know that we're writing an unofficial expansion where there's like a missile-based purgatory.
Missile-based make a dungeon.
I thought we keep this secret.
No, anyway, we desperately need to learn how to like combat, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, this is quite, still quite complex campaign. Lots of moving parts, several supernatural forces, and then, you as supernatural forces yourself get dropped into the middle of it somewhere. And I was thinking in terms of this like complex and sometimes fragmented backstory, when you get to the end of it, did you feel that you understood it enough, or was it sort of mysterious still?
Tim, you can answer this first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know as much about the lore. I understood enough. It was complex, and I think there's probably lots going on that I didn't understand, but I also didn't hate that. One of my favorite moments of the campaign was when I realized that this conspiracy went beyond Germany, and that essentially there was a far right conspiracy that was connecting Russia and Germany together, and that it was like this worldwide fascist, and that was terrifying. And just seeing that, the inkling of that coming together, that was a very cool moment. So when it comes to all the stuff about, various deity things fighting each other and all their motivation, I didn't care as much about that. I got enough of it. But that's all the machinations of gods. Who care? That doesn't involve my character as much. I like the human element. The fact that this horrible, Slavic association is doing this awful conspiracy, and it's basically the worst people you could imagine, and they're in political power, and they run the newspapers, and they're killing people, and they have pictures of them killing people. That stuff was really cool because it felt a little more real, and that part I felt like I understood.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think, to a certain extent, I understood what was going on. Like Tim said, the human element of it. I'm pretty sure I got that by the end of it, and then also because I purposely chose an occultist, and because I do know a lot more of the lore than the other characters did, I also felt like I knew what was going on in the background with the gods and Jagediel and the lictors and you know, that sort of the more supernatural element. And I think that worked well in who my character was, because there was definitely a theme of like the other two being like, we would find, you know, things that Kramer wrote or other books of supernatural. We would be doing research, and the other two characters are like, so what does this mean? What is this? And then Elvira has to be like, well, actually, there are multiple different planes of existence, and you know, blah blah blah, lore dump, lore dump, lore dump.
Roll out the slide projector.
Yeah, exactly. she should have just did a presentation. Yeah. But yeah, I think because it was fitting for my character, I did understand the also supernatural story that was happening by the end of it as well, and became a part of it in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah, even for Louise, what she said, she got a rough or good understanding of how the story kind of unfolded and what it was about. But also that her not having been exposed to the cult lore before exposed her a bit more to the horror and the events that kind of unfolded. So like she enjoyed it a bit more in that aspect, that it was new, surprising, and elements of stories that she didn't know before, and that she truly liked.
And well, when everything falls to pieces or falls into place, I don't know which one to say. The big end, and I have to confess now, I'm sort of imagining that instead of an avatar of Jagediel and an avatar of Bina fighting, it could have been Elvira and Niels fighting in the background. But I guess
almost was.
Yeah,
always was. Yeah. I guess the question is, how did it end for you?
To a degree, it was. To a metaphorical degree, it was a fight between the two of them. But that's me shutting up. Literal. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah, no. Because even our decisions at the end were opposites, and we were both trying to make opposite things happening, because there's a choice you have to make at the end, and we made very opposite ones, and sadly that kind of meant that Niels won just because he did something that screwed everybody else. But then that made it. I love the ending we got. Our actual character ending was spectacular. I mean, what do you the ending of the plot between the gods?
To be honest, I don't quite remember the plot between, like, how it ended between the gods, because I was far more interested in our individual endings, and I loved how our individual endings and like, Niels choosing to save himself, to be with himself. I think that it was very fitting, and I remember our epilogues a lot better than the actual like scenario or the campaign ending, I think.
If I might,
ended up being really.
If nice. I might interject, I think I remember it the same way, because in my memory, despite what everything should have been built up to, even for me was like the Battle of the Gods, like a Japanese manga or anime kind of happening in the background. But that was just like peripheral atmosphere. It was literally the three of you making the decisions of saving the children, running away, killing Chizenko, or killing the Nephirites, or fighting the Nephirites. Are they good? Are they bad? It, like, I didn't know how or what to do, but I realized that the moment you started I set the scene and you started discussing your individual kind of like interactions and what it feels for you to deal with each other, and the conflict between Elvira and Niels kind of came to a burning point, and Louise was just like, we need to save the children, we need to just get out, we need to do something but not stand here because this, whatever this is nuts and I don't want to be around this. So how do we get out? And I feel this in a weird sense. The ending as intended was kind of a side thing. Like, yeah, it happened in the background. The Battle of the Gods happened in the background, but the battle of the characters happened on the stage. And it was so fantastic. Especially what they went through, what they kind of encountered, and how they kind of went through. And to quote Louise, satisfying and unsettling as it should be. As a good Stasi officer would write into his in his report. It matched the expectations and the whole setting and build-up of the plot. Perfect. It sums it up. Pretty much the expectancy that I had.
I love that it came down to one last conflict between the two of us. Even if it wasn't literally us punching each other, it was a decision.
It had to.
Yeah.
I honestly, I could not let you go without that conflict. Without you interacting in the moment of like, I was like, yeah, so you need to take sides and but you make better story than what was written. So like, go for it.
Yeah.
The choice was really good too, because it was a choice between spoiler. I guess you guys, but
no.
We spoiled everything.
Yeah. It's a choice between doing the right thing, ending the evil and dying, or letting the cycle continue and living. And and more or less, this is the way it played out for us, or as we understood it. Sure. And Elvira, I don't know if it's goodness or whatever it is, but she ultimately is going to make the choice. No, we're going to die and stay here and end this so it doesn't happen again, or at least in this form, whatever. That's how Niels interpreted it. And then when he sees that, he makes the choice to live and to continue the cycle. But I loved it because in his mind, one of the reasons he did that is that he's going to make you live and Louise live. And in his mind, you owe him your life because he made that choice. And I think that was part of the messed up psychology of it. I'm not going to let you die because now you're going to live the rest of your days knowing you owe your life to me. And I think he refused to allow. That was a very easy choice for him. And I liked that there was a messed up, a weird psychological aspect to our unhealthy relationship, even at the end. And that was fun.
Yeah, I think that was like the pinnacle of the three of ours relationship, right? It was the continuation of Niels and Elvira having this battle with each other, this fight with each other, continuing this fight, and then Louise being like, guys, we have to do something. Like, stop with your fucking fighting. We need to do something. And I thought that was like, I thought that was really fun. And and I did like that our ultimate battle with each other was actually not us actually fighting. It was more psychological than anything.
Totally.
So in the end, what happened with your characters then?
Oh, it was so great. We're together forever, really. I mean, so when we get through the epilogue, I added that Nils walks away. He leaves so that we don't find each other right afterwards, because he knows now that we're cured, you'll never have anything to do with him. The best case scenario is rejected. The worst case is we have to kill each other right there. So he just takes off and disappears. But then we had it that we're both going to live a very long life because of what we are. And for years afterwards, you're tormenting him. You're continuing to search for him in your dreams because in his dreams, he has his collection of butterflies that he adds to from time to time. And they're his most precious object. Even though he's a monstrosity and barely human now, the memory of them, the memory of the hope, they represent everything he hoped for, everything he dreamed of a life where he could be loved. And you go into his dreams and you steal them one at a time. And he's aware that you're doing that, and so we're locked in this eternal battle where you're stealing his butterflies and he's adding to them. And as bad as it is, I added that he actually though is still touched because it means you still care. You're still even at this point you're still linked with him. And so I think he actually cherishes that bond between us, even though it's this horrible bond. He takes some kind of pleasure in knowing that you have to chase him throughout eternity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Louise committed suicide, I think, right?
Yeah.
Shortly thereafter.
She.
Very dark.
I did visit Louise in her dream before she did it, though, and that was also a really. That was a really. I hate to call it fun scene because it's not exactly fun, but it was like.
It was a very memorable scene because
It was
all
a very
you went
memorable
through,
scene.
it is this like cinematic ending of her deciding to take her life, going to sleep one more time, and you know that she's going to kill herself shortly after. And you see her, you know you can't reach her, you can't do anything about it. And it was cinematic, it was climatic, but it was anticlimactic at the same time, in a sense, because you know what was going to happen, but you also didn't act upon it. You were like,
I mean, it wasn't about trying to stop her. It was more so. It was more so like, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
You could come, and I think I offered her to come.
Yeah, you did.
Be in my bookshop in the dream world if she wanted to.
Yeah, but she denied.
She declined.
It was too strange to a cult, and what she experienced was, I think, throughout, you have to give it to her. Throughout the campaign of 42 sessions, she stayed true to a Stasi officer's career. She did not sway. She did not change. She maintained the idea that cult is wrong, GDR is right, and everything that is happening around this is just weird. And we need to stop this, even though if we need to strike alliances we don't agree upon. And it was tragic.
I think her traumatic character arc is that she refused to change.
She couldn't change.
She had to die.
I think she couldn't. I think she just couldn't change because she was who she was. She was the state of East Germany, and she refused to die until she did, and she accepted defeat.
Yeah.
She didn't want to become a monster, and I think she was smarter than us because she realized if she changed, she would become something unspeakable.
Yeah.
I'll throw in quickly, just the last time I played Nils in that epilogue, I found it really creepy because I tried to play him where this is him years from now where he's lost the last touch of his humanity. And so he's now a monster, even beyond anything he was in the campaign. And it was, I creeped myself out in that moment. It was just something about that this thing survives and he's almost self-actualized now. And maybe he still suffers, but not, his humanity is so gone now, he's something else. He's something the world never should have allowed to be unleashed. And it was just disturbing to think about where that character would end up. I mean,
in the context of the actual lore, though, that it would actually be you getting closer to your actual humanity in the cult universe.
Well, that makes it better. Still, yeah, fair enough. But a lot of people will suffer because of Nils' survival in
True.
that world. Ugh.
So after all this, so what really stayed with you and what stands out? I'd like to go through and hear from everyone what's like your favorite of some different things, and I think let's begin with sort of favorite scene. Like, what moment do you really like?
I have one. And it's with Niels. It is when we were in the limo with Zoya going to I think it was in between missile bases or something. We were going to the KGB secret hideout place. And that was like the first time we were actually, that Elvira and Niels were honest with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like our argument. And I remember you saying like, Niels almost killed you during that scene because of the argument. Like, we had like this really, I love role-playing arguments and like fraught moments. Like, I love it so much when I can do it in an RPG. I like it. It makes me so happy. This was like one of my favorite argument moments, probably in anything I've played. Like, it was very, very cool.
I loved that scene too. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time where you get Niels to be, yes, we're completely honest with each other, because you're always having to pretend that you don't despise Niels, and he's always convincing himself that you'll really like him, you'll come around. And then at that moment, we both kind of admit that's never going to happen. And that was great. He did come very close to killing you. It was a very tense moment. And poor Louise having to sit in the car too.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many good moments. I just want to. I'll throw one out. I'll have to name maybe two, but there was one time in our relationship earlier. I think where it first turned. We go to the Inferno, I guess. We go to Inferno a few times throughout the campaign, but there's one moment where we ended up in Inferno, where something, I kind of forget the surrounding now, but Niels basically became a high on the environment of Inferno, and I forget if it was partly mechanical, partly me just role playing it. But he starts getting overwhelmed with the emotions of it, and he starts whispering to Elvira things that he's done in the past, and he's kind of out of his mind, so he's not doing it normally. Like, it's not something he would even remember later, but he's just whispering in your ear everything that he's done. And you are freaking out.
Was that with the books of the children's suffering books? The Hall of Suffering Children's.
So, it might have been after that, like in every session, where he steals one of the books.
For the listeners' enhancement, so expanded a bit the first Inferno ride to the extent that in Chesenko's house there is a library filled with books of children tortured.
Chesenko's?
Kalenko's, I guess.
Kalenko's, sorry.
Kalenko's.
Kalenko. Russian names. I apologize. Kalenko's house, and there are books filled with, there are bookshelves filled with books, leather-bound, each engraved with a single name, and they're all the suffering of children over the centuries that have succumbed in Leningrad. They have succumbed to Kalenko's extremities of torture in one way or another. And at some point, Niels got a bit too close and too connected with these books. He felt very real and understanding with the suffering and the pain of what was written in the memories of the children. And it became to the point when he broke in one of those approaches.
That was why it happened.
And one of the GM moves was lose control, right? And it's like, oh, you just whispered to Elvira your deepest and darkest secrets. You tell her everything you've ever done. And he did. And he continued to do so.
And then she lost stability from that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what he'd always wanted to do. He always wanted to be honest, I think. And then being in the environment of Inferno, losing control like that, it was his chance to do that, to show you his true self. And I remember that being a cool moment, because that was one of those moments that this relationship was bad before. It is worse now. And so all of those moments I cherished.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw out another moment quickly because I just don't want to creep out. I don't want to not mention it. And apologies for what a creep I am, but playing a character this dark was challenging for the first portion of the campaign. And I didn't realize how challenging it would be. And it's not like we went to great lengths to show the awfulness, but you have to a little bit.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. Well, okay. Because there was a couple moments that were bad, but I feel like I kind of held back a little bit for the first few sessions, because I was like, I just feel uncomfortable. I'm not sure how much I want to do this. And then gradually I got more comfortable. So the kid in the woods, we pretty much just fade to black immediately. We didn't go into much details with what happened with that. And there were other moments where he's interacting with children that are creepy. But then there was one moment in the campaign where I kind of got comfortable enough where I'm like, I'm going to just go for it. And I felt like we needed to have this moment, because otherwise I felt like I wasn't being honest to the Niels character. I wanted everyone to kind of have to confront how awful it would be to be around this person, to have to act like they're your friend. And it involved the murder of two boys that we played out perhaps a little more than one might normally in an role-playing game. And it's not my favorite moment in the sense that I enjoyed it, but I think it was I did enjoy David's reaction to it. I think David has creeped me out so many times in games. I enjoyed that I got him a little bit with this, because the scene basically featured Nils climbing up to the second floor window of a house and going into the house where two boys are sleeping. And I think one of them does wake up and he's talking to them, or he's basically standing over them.
You don't even go through the window. You went through the basement. The parents are watching TV. You sneak past them. Right. You succeed in sneaking past everyone, alerting no one.
And you read them a story.
And you read them a freaking story from your books.
Bedtime story, because it's nighttime, and they've met before, so they're not necessarily afraid of Nils.
They met in the Frankfurt Order Clinic.
Yes, because the two boys in the Frankfurt Order Clinic who are getting released. And he befriended them, and so he's reading them this story, and we're just playing it out, and it's creepy. And then they fall asleep, and then he starts singing to them. And I had a lullaby that I was ready to sing. And I just, a few notes of it. And then he kills them in their sleep. It's not a particularly violent murder, right? He just strangles them, but it's just playing out that sequence and how creepy it was to build up to that and to have that happen. And to be able to go that dark and to watch David's reaction to it. It was just I'll never forget that sequence. I felt like that. I delivered on the darkness of that character in a way that was not tasteless, I didn't feel it was excessive, but I felt like it had to happen. And yes, I creeped out David very deeply in that sequence.
It was a depiction of your true character that you are playing. Yeah. And it became the moment, even for me as a GM, where I was like, okay, I'm playing the child that is going to be strangled by this guy now. So it was weird. And again, content warnings out there. Be sure you understand who you play with. We were able to do this because we all understand each other. We know our limits, and we were able to do this. But please be aware of your limitations, and content warnings. Do not exceed, and do not force anyone to do something they don't want to do.
I'll just quickly say the first message of this campaign was me messaging David to say, I have this concept for a character. I haven't even written it out yet, what do you think about this? I want pre-permission even before writing out this character.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that sounds no one has an exception to this. You can go right ahead. So I was very careful with how I
absolutely
approached this one.
So yeah, be aware of your players. And that's one of and we enjoy the campaign mostly because we trust each other enough that we can go to limits, that we can just reach the uncomfortableness that we cannot fathom anymore. And even for me, that scene was one of the few scenes that Tim finally brought me to the point where I was like, okay, we cut to black. I cannot deal with this anymore. And, it's fine.
We're all still friends.
We're all still friends. We all still enjoy playing games afterwards. I do want to bring up from Louise a couple of events that she mentioned, which was one, finding Magda in her apartment and basically withering and dying away. It was the ritual at Pogodin's mansion, despite her breaking her ritual and getting away with it to a degree. It was also the idea of my added doll that she got from Sokolov or took from Sokolov. There's also the aspect of trying to stay hidden in Moscow, trying to be undiscovered against the Slava Association and everybody else, the KGB and everybody who's against you. And I think that's one of her favorite parts because it's only 2 words. Murdering Blobel is one of her biggest things. Because
very satisfying.
The Abomination did a great part in preventing them, Blobel, to leave, but she delivered the final blow, and
that was a really fun scene. Elvira wasn't even a part of it. I think she was still in the apartment.
You were still in the room, yeah.
Yeah, I was still in
we had to run out to catch him. Yeah.
But super cool scene. Love that scene.
Very fun.
So
that was very fun.
For the context, Blobel managed to stay hidden and monitor their behavior up till the point that they came to Moscow. And he was informing Slava then, because the Slavic Association was by then pretty much in shambles in what they left it in. And, he was trying to still get a grip on these 3 weird people that have killed his boss and everything. And he just made one mistake. He wasn't quick enough in one moment. And, that's when they spotted him. And they remembered him and flashbacks. And they rushed him, and, he did not survive that.
Rest in peace, Alexei. Okay, on to a very important matter. Favorite non-player characters?
Best character introduction easily was Harcombe. The way you described the way he was dressed and the fact that he showed up in a building where he had no reason to be.
Yeah.
Beautiful. When you said that guy was wearing leather pants, that he was all slender leather pants in the middle of this Russian base, amazing introduction. I just love that we all immediately knew, don't mess with this guy. He's going to be some weird trickster, sorcerer man, instant trouble.
Yeah.
Great introduction.
I also agree with that. And I really enjoyed Philip Kramer as an NPC. I think he was a lot more interesting than Pogodin or Mahler as the main 3 villains. I don't know. There was something about Kramer that his relationship with Magda and all the elements that you could find out about him as a person. Like, he's a terrible person, like 100% awful, terrible. He's so infiltrated by Jagidiel that there's no redemption for him. But I still appreciate him. And also, like, you only meet him briefly before he becomes an incarnate, right? So I do appreciate that. I think my character got to know him through like his books and his magic and those elements, which was a lot of fun for me.
I gotta throw one other one in there. Even though it was a character we only knew very briefly, I just remember it. I think her name was Sasha, the woman who. So yeah, we only encounter her when she basically almost kills all of us, and then we have to make a decision with what to do with her. And it was just a great roleplay moment because Nils ultimately had to kill her, and he hadn't killed anyone like her before, and it felt weird and bad. And I just really remember that whole arc with her. And she was cool. The way she was introduced was amazing. Again, she was scary. What she represented was terrifying. There was just something about that character that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, character completely made up.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I made her up because I wanted you to understand that you kind of followed beyond the realms of Berlin, and that those people in Berlin might not be the same people following you here. And I just had the idea of like some tramp kind of like following you. And like while you were talking to her, I kind of spun up the whole idea of, well, she might be connected to Slavic Association or Slava in general because she's more Polish by then. You were in Poland already, so yeah, she was the indoctrinated child of a Slava soldier, basically, occultist soldier. And yeah, she created a lot of tension in the group. And I think she created exactly what I want her to be. The point of conflict where the characters knew she was wrong. She infiltrated their group and they needed to deal with her because they knew they couldn't let her go. But they also, two of them did not want to kill her. And so there was a short walk with Niels into the woods. And only one of them came back.
Yeah.
And Niels had never executed someone like that.
Yeah.
Before, yeah.
And it was a pressure point. It was putting tension on Niels. It was putting pressure on you, revealing kind of that next level. I was pushing you towards becoming, because I love that idea, the way we started off. Weak, feeble, nothing good. Everybody hates you. Get stronger, be better, be independent, be something. And that was literally the turning point when you came out of the woods. You didn't say anything. You went back to the car and you said, let's drive. That was the most powerful speech you did not say. And it was the turning point of you actively killing someone that was not a young boy, that was not your kind of gender group. That was a killing that meant for you physically that you crossed the threshold and you were okay with it for the greater good. And so yeah, I just threw in that character as a side note, but like she had notes and kind of books about her father kind of raising her in a dystopian family and stuff.
Very rich character. And to that point, everybody else was also okay with it because something needed to be done with her. And Elvira did keep her notes and
Yeah.
book and use them to help them get past the Russian border.
Exactly.
Also an amazing sequence.
And for Louise, she said actually Chizenko and his appearance as a lictor in the library was one of her most terrifying and most beautiful scenes of the
Very
campaign,
cool.
especially the way that it kind of disguised it for her because she wasn't privy to Chagdigel's mark, so she just saw him as he was, a Russian Orthodox priest walking into a library. And I remember distinctly, like, I think that Niels was on top, Elvira, you were downstairs. No, vice versa. And Louise was kind of on the staircase or something. And it was beautiful where she was like, fuck is wrong? And the two of you freaked the fuck out. And yeah.
That was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say quickly a note because there's lots of great NPCs in this game, but David, one of David's great strengths as a GM is I think he adds really cool, interesting NPCs that are just even minor characters you interact with a bit. Our journalist friend in Berlin, I just remember lots of really memorable NPCs throughout the
Does
whole
not
campaign.
exist.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist either?
No.
Who was helping us, but we were trying to get him to research things for us when we weren't there.
Does not exist.
We had to convince him. It was a whole thing. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And they all felt like real people that we really had to be careful how we interacted with, keep them excited. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with that.
The doctor at the hospital
We stole
who
his
was
car, his
obsessed
permission.
with us.
Dr.
And
Richter?
our
Yeah.
Martin, do you want to ask them a question?
Everyone was interesting to interact with. Everyone felt like a real person. And usually weren't that eager to help us. And it was cool. You made, especially the world of Germany in 1990, Eastern Europe, you made it feel so real. I feel like you know that world enough, and it came across so cool. Even traveling to Poland felt amazing because you just made it feel like it really was Poland at that time, and everything was kind of challenging, and where we're going to stay is challenging. Everyone we interacted with felt so it was cool. It really felt like we were in a different setting. I'd never played before.
David, quickly, favorite non-player character to portray during this run?
I think actually, as short-lived as she was, Sasha is one of my favorite ones. It was a sporadic idea and like a connection to bring them to the connection that people are behind them, even beyond the borders of Germany. But just the fact that it ended up with this Quentin Tarantino style execution in the woods somewhere in the woods of Poland, it was very cinematic. It was very felt, and I could leave a lot of clues for the characters based on the stuff that she had with her that could guide them, could point them to directions that they kind of maybe overlooked or forgot about. And I think I don't see them as important as they might have been, but I created two journalists, one in Berlin and one in Russia, who...
You created Sokolov too? So both of them, wow.
Yes,
Wow.
I created both of the journalists who were investigating Slavic association and Slava in some degree. But they were interested in kind of the connections to the broader picture. And especially the way they were under the gun and running from trouble. And no, actually, that was before the ritual. So they were inquiring information beforehand. And it was that moment where I realized they didn't really make the connection. And I also felt that the connection to the Frankfurt an der Oder Clinic and to Dr. Schäfer was a bit underrepresented to a degree that the Germanische Gemeinschaft and Slava are a bit loosely tied to only one or two intersections if you read the campaign. And that felt a bit troublesome, especially for players who investigated the mechanical workshop of Hermann and were almost killed evading it. So none of the characters would go back there whatsoever. They didn't want to do anything with any Nazis anywhere in Berlin anymore. Well, to a degree that, but I was struggling to kind of give them the incentive of how do I portray the connection to Slava? How do I give them the idea that this is a broader spanning connection that everybody is kind of working with? And I actually made Dr. Schäfer a central figure. Actually, after Sasha, I think it actually would be Dr. Schäfer, because I expanded him from the general practitioner. And be sure to read his NPC section, because he is an occultist, or death occultist, or death occult.
Death magician.
Death magician. Mm-hmm. Be sure to understand that before you portray him. Because it changes a lot of things in my perspective. And so I was using him to establish a relationship between Germanische Gemeinschaft and the Slava Association, where he traveled in between them, was the middleman between them. He had garden parties. And I know of enough German background and stories in the news back in the 90s that I could recount on, like, events like that. And I was like, that's the perfect guy to put in the perfect place to be that weird person that connects everything together for the characters, despite it not being in the campaign book. But it was necessary for my players to get the link from getting from Germany to Moscow. And I don't think you would have gotten anywhere further east than Poland or Frankfurt an der Oder if you have not understood and got the clues from Dr. Schäfer's office.
We needed those journalists, I think, absolutely, or we would have been in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I think, again, I haven't read the Black Madonna since we played it, but from talking to David, it feels like the campaign makes a lot of assumptions about what the player characters are going to do and how they're going to move through the mystery, that maybe worked for the first edition cults, but doesn't really work for Divinity Lost. So mostly because, like, again, we're playing real people by and large. So it's kind of like, well, yeah, of course we're not going to go to the place with a bunch of thugs with guns. Like, that's not, of course we're not going to do that. Like, why would we? And if there's like major clues there that we're not going to get, then yeah, you kind of need different avenues to get those to the players.
Yeah, and there are several of these, I think, that we mentioned that are probably usual suspects for being sort of forgotten or potentially shortcutted past. Yeah. But it's good to have a sort of helpful journalist then who can share some notes.
Yeah.
And be generally creepy or weird, I guess.
Knows a lot of creepy, weird stuff about what's going on.
And who can be abducted by the KGB and create a connection to Soya if needed. If his disappearance raises questions, They are people. Not that they would have asked those questions. He just disappeared for them. They didn't ask questions. But technically, it would have gotten connections to wherever they need to go.
So just from listening to like the highlights and the and sort of the things that are memorable, clearly a lot of things did come out of, you know, your characters and decisions and so on. But I have to put David on the spot for just a moment to ask, like, what are sort of your biggest oh shit moments from behind the GM screen, so to speak, like surprises and curveballs and that kind of thing.
I think one of the curveballs that in our constellation was thrown at me was the instability of Niels and his affinity and his dark secret. It wasn't really the story. It was always me thinking that I like the dark secret. I want to incorporate it, especially after things go south. He is deteriorating. He is not completely comprehending what is happening around him. And even then, or even more so at that point, he should experience the pressure of being followed. And I think next to that, one of the most weird or different things were the dream camp of Camp 13, well, the children's camp event.
Yeah, it's like S17, I think.
S17,
like some ominous number letter combination.
Exactly. So that dream sequence, I wasn't sure where this was gonna go because each of the characters kind of morphed into their younger bodies, but like had their adult brains. They kind of acted upon the way they would have. And it was weird in the dynamic they were in. So it was just very challenging. And I think that sequence, I think it was good, but I don't know how much it actually brought to the story and the understanding of everything. It was a flashback. It was a good flashback of horrific memories, but it wasn't really bringing much. And I was trying to figure out why I ran this sequence. And I think the last thing I want to mention. I think one of the most challenging things, actually, now that I think about it, was the infiltration of Slava. Because by that point, they were experienced, they've done Slavic association, they've done all kinds of infiltration and whatnot. And then you come to a KGB hotspot run by operatives and whatnot, and like technically everybody is suspicious about everything. And now you're supposed to kind of give them leeway to kind of look at things, but technically the way it's written, it doesn't allow you to even let them go to the second floor without like passing several rolls. And it just didn't fit to how things played out, how the characters were. And I have to say, I just went with a lot of gut decisions and just made it more to the narrative. Because during that scene of Slava infiltration, one of the characters struck a beautiful conversation that was disturbing in the courtyard, in the backyard, creating enough distraction and drew enough attention to let the other players kind of infiltrate the rest of the building, creating other issues and whatsoever. But I think there is a lot of elements that in my playstyle had to be adjusted to make it work. And throughout everything, almost every scene is memorable. I don't know what is not, because even the slightest discussions with hotel personnel or valets seem meaningful in the grander scheme if you look at the situation they were in at that point. And yeah, I don't know. To pick one particular point, I wouldn't know. Sorry, it was a long answer, but
let's end, I guess, with having some advice for the GMs and I guess potential players. Though I guess they will be listening to this after they play the Black Madonna. So what does it help them? Anyways. If you were to give, some piece of advice to GMs who want to run the Black Madonna, like what would you tell them? What's important for them to think about to make this, as good as your run or even better? And what advice would you give to prospective players who are now about to embark on this long journey?
I got one for GMs maybe, which is just to take the setting really seriously. Like, I remember one of the coolest parts of the campaign was just having to get from Germany into the Soviet Union in 1991. And like, what does that look like? How do you do that? Getting a car, getting across Poland, which I don't even know if there's much on that in the campaign, but it was one of the coolest parts of the campaign. And I think just taking that historical setting seriously, making you feel like you're in this world that's collapsing, everything's falling apart, the fascists everywhere. That, I think really making that abundantly clear to the players. I think it made it so much cooler.
Yeah. Taking the atmosphere seriously, in a historic sense, is definitely good. Also, and I think we mentioned this earlier. I think the reason why our run was so successful and so much fun for each of us is because we were allowed to really get into our characters and really role play with each other. And the story ultimately was about the three of us in the world, and not just like, oh, here's this thing, what do you do about it? It was, oh, there's this thing, how do you feel about it? And how do you interact with the others that are with you? Like really encouraging players to be in the story instead of just acting or believing it's just a series of encounters, instead of like people actually experiencing a place and a world.
I guess advice for players, I would just say, I'll just say advice for players: don't be too cautious. Like, go to the locations. We were mostly good at this, but I think sometimes, we'd be afraid, like, oh, we're going to die if we go there. And that probably, in hindsight, it would probably be good to just accept you have to go and you have to investigate and check out these places, and that you'll find a way to not die. Because it was fun to be cautious, but I think there were definitely moments where it would have been easier for the GM, at least, if we had just gone to the place. But we had reasons not to, too, though, so I don't know.
Yeah. Also, I mean, Kult is a perfect system for you to kill characters in because that doesn't mean that they're removed from the campaign. It just means they're potentially different. So, I mean, again, also to that extent, I mean, the three of us played this very long campaign and none of us died. And that wasn't because we were incredibly lucky. I think it's kind of because we were attached to our players and it was more fun to play the same three characters throughout the entire campaign than it would have been if somebody died and then you have to rewrite another character that joins in somehow, right? It's so you need to, as a GM, you need to kind of think about like, okay, am I going to kill characters and what's going to happen to them after I kill them? Or do I not want the characters to die? Do I want them to fully experience the entire campaign? And how do I deal with that eventuality? Especially because like there's a lot of dangerous shit that's going to happen. So how do you deal with them doing that dangerous shit and then keeping their characters throughout the campaign?
I'll just say quickly, it was fun to feel like we were in peril the whole campaign. And I didn't feel like we had plot armor necessarily. I don't think so, because there were so many moments where I felt like, oh God, if this guy gets a lucky roll or I screw this up, I am so dead. But that was fun then to survive. I enjoyed that. It felt like we had to be careful and we had to be smart.
And 95% of the time, he didn't even roll.
Yeah.
I think, to give my 2 cents, as a GM, listen to the players, listen to their needs, and listen to what they don't pick up. If they don't make a connection, bring in an NPC who does. Don't make it obvious, but make them give up something. Give an incentive that it would interact with them. It doesn't need to last for the whole campaign. It can be a throwaway NPC, but people can get attached to people. NPCs are meaningful locations, clues, and everything in one. And I think the Black Madonna, if you consider you start in a gala in Hamburg, you discover gruesome death in Berlin, and discover even more ritualistic murder throughout Berlin suburbs, need to flee to Russia and infiltrate missile bases. There's a lot of leeway to kind of fill in the gaps in between that players don't catch if it doesn't make sense to them. Don't be afraid to have a list of names and occupations of people that suddenly turn up and interact with the characters. They might become attached to them. They might kill them for one or the other reason. But maybe that was needed to bring the group together, to divide the group, or to create just enough tension and conflict that you need to run the Black Madonna. Who knows? Just my comment on this, because I added a lot of characters. I added a lot of subtle NPCs that appeared as a throwaway thing, but they became important characters all of a sudden because they kept on interacting with the players, and well, at some point they fulfilled their duty, and I think they served their purpose as well. So, yeah. Don't be afraid. Create people, create avenues for you as a GM to explain the story with different words.
I'll just add quickly, one of my favorite sessions on that note of considering something I'm sure you added was we spent an entire session at a discotheque in Poland.
Oh yeah,
and it was
that
amazing.
one.
And
The vampire
learned
discotheque.
the vampire discotheque. We learned important things. We learned about our characters. It was just a great session, and it entirely consisted of a vampire discotheque in Poland.
Yeah.
Sounds like this
which was-
campaign needs a Poland chapter, clearly.
Which was also taken by the Legions of Darkness original module. So
There's no chapter on Poland?
At
No.
all?
no.
Yeah.
You have to
that's
go through the
crazy.
whole country.
There's
Yeah,
like a
no.
sentence on Poland.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even
It's
exchanging our
difficult.
currency
It's
took time. Like everything.
is-
Yeah.
It is difficult to
We had a-
enter and to go through. And it might
Okay.
take a day or
We had-
two.
Yeah, that's
That's
hilarious.
the
We had a
sentence.
garbage bag full of like whatever the currency, zloty or something. We had to
Zloty,
deal with
yeah.
that. Yeah, and
A garbage
That's
bag full of
madness.
zoology, that's right.
we had to buy a
We-
used car. That was a
We
fun
obviously
you-
need to
chapter for
write
us.
Because-
the vampire
because you-
discotheque
Because you
supplement.
sold your pelts that you took
Yeah.
from Sasha Pogodin's
Ritual
mansion.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
That was
So-
immensely fun and ridiculous. Yeah, that was the kind of stuff I enjoyed the most in the campaign. So I think it'd be dumb to skip over that.
So it was the part that was not in the campaign that you enjoyed the most.
It was up. Yeah, just the process of having to get to the Soviet Union and having to be stuck in a
Oh,
car
okay.
with the other players because of what we've been
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Final reflection, then. In one sentence, what is the Black Madonna to you? And would you return to it? Play it again or run it? Maybe.
I think it's one of the coolest campaigns I've ever played for sure. I think, yeah, it's the conspiracy and that element of the story, I think, is amazing. I don't think I've played a campaign that's more twisted or creepier than that. Like specifically the neo-Nazi far right stuff. And I think the way that was depicted. And also it's my favorite setting ever. So I think, yeah, I don't think I've ever played a setting or run a game with a setting cooler than this. Just this world that's rotting and falling apart and all the chaos that's unleashed. So
Hey, it's just
it's up
history.
there for me.
Okay, it's just history.
But not the greatest time in history maybe to be in this place.
I didn't say it was great. It was just history.
Yeah. I don't know how I'd interact with this again, but I mean, running it would be such a mammoth undertaking. I don't know if I ever would, but I love the setting. I don't know if I could do it as well as David too. Maybe if I want to read up a little bit and be careful about how I depicted these places and try to give that authenticity to it. But very cool campaign.
Yeah. I think the Black Madonna is a very good example of integrating cult into a historical setting without it being I don't know, kind of exploitive of a particular point in history. And yeah, I think it's very, very good. And I think also to that point as well, you do need to do research in order to run this effectively, because the historical elements are very important to the overall story. And because David has a lot of firsthand knowledge of this of the environment of this time and the country, it worked really, really well. But yeah, it is very, very good integration of the cult lore with a historical time and place. I don't think I would run Black Madonna myself. For that reason, is I'm not as knowledgeable of the historical aspect of it, and I don't think I would do that enough justice. Playing it again might be interesting with a different group dynamic. But I think I'm pretty good with the run that we had. I don't know if I could have another group top that. Basically, that was
I agree.
Yeah.
From my perspective, one sentence. I'm gonna quote Mikkel Peterson. It could use a few less missile bases.
Yep.
It is a great campaign. Immersionness is one of the key components, and it becomes hard to understand. And I think one of the reasons why I successfully could kind of convince you and kind of portray the story, because I went more for the players rather than what was written. And I know Germany in the 90s, so like I could bring in first-hand knowledge. Not everybody can do this, but don't also be afraid to not do it. There's enough material out there that you can kind of see Berlin in the 1990s or whatever. It doesn't need much. It just needs enough that you would follow the player's instinct. And I think as long as you go more after the player than the plot, it is important, but it's not as important what the players do. You're gonna have a great time. Run the Black Madonna, but listen to what your players do and encourage them to do whatever they want to do. Yes, and everything they do. More than one sentence. Sorry, Martin.
It's a great campaign. It's a great setting just to wander around into if you have that kind of dynamic. Yeah. Very cool traveling from city to city, from country to country. Mm-hmm. Unique.
Yeah.
And with that, should we close tonight's proceedings? Please, so. Please tell the viewers, if there's anything you want to tell them about where to find you, and what games they should play, and so on, or to not find you, just leave you alone. You can find me, and ranting and raving about Kult on the Illusion Horror and Quant server, obviously, and the Discord server, and the
Elysium server.
Yeah. Oh yes, on the Kult Elysium server as well, where there's a lot of recurring discussions about the Black Madonna as well, which warms our dark
fuel the
dark
fire,
hearts.
People fuel the fire.
You can't find me anywhere in particular, but I am on the servers, and maybe I'll see you on there. You'll probably see you at a game eventually if you stick around, because I do love to play.
Yeah,
you do.
And yeah, you can find me on Illusion Horror and Con server. You can find me in other spaces in the YouTube channel, the GM guide with David and Gabe, and some of the APs, and you'll find me in those places.
Fantastic. I'm David. I'm the other part of Martin, and we are doing this beautiful section of how to run the Black Madonna. Thank you, Martin, for getting us through my misery of my first run through. Much appreciated. And see you next session, where we continue chapter 2. Martin, what is that about?
Well, we like we said a while ago, we've had the first big turning point of the campaign. Everything is a mess. The players and the player characters are asking themselves, where the fuck do we go from here? And everyone is wanted by the police. That's where we're going to pick up.
Amazing.
Sounds like an easy point to pick up. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.